Welcome to a special edition of Context at Christmas. Good news and some top Canadian musicians for your cheer today. First, on the news side of things, the Holy Land faces fresh turmoil this Christmas thanks to President Trump.
The President's decision is an important step towards peace. For there is no peace that doesn't include Jerusalem as the capital of the State of Israel.
President Trump's decision to relocate the U.S. Embassy makes news this Christmas, and our Context correspondent in Jerusalem, Marnie Blom, reports from where it all began in the little town of Bethlehem. I'm Lorna Duick, and this is Context. A musical treat coming up for you. Juno-nominated Mark Masri sings his Christmas hit and tells why he feels the Christmas story is still so relevant for our world today. Plus, he went from being homeless and about to commit suicide to signing a record deal. It's one miraculous story to share. Musician Matt Black is just ahead.
So while many of us experience
and on my snapshot,
life,
what to do when Christmas comes with doubts. Tips to overcome some of life's looming questions. Pastor and author will speak into those struggles and find ways for peace in our busy lives at Christmas. Leading us off today, Context correspondent Marnie Blom takes us to the Holy Land where the first Christmas story began, and how news events of today are now shaping security concerns for tomorrow. Here's Marnie Blom.
Bethlehem. No other place on earth compares in historical significance. It was here, according to Scripture, that the Son of God, the Savior of mankind, was born. Fast forward 2,000 years and Bethlehem, now a city of 33,000, looks more like a prison and is no longer considered Israel proper. Jewish Israelis are not even permitted to enter. Christians, once a healthy majority, now number less than a third of the city's population. The numbers are decreasing with the downturn in Bethlehem's economy and the need to find work abroad. And like other hotspots in the West Bank, Bethlehem easily ignites in times of Palestinian-Israeli conflict.
Here in Bethlehem, things have quieted down somewhat. From a tumultuous week of protests and violence, the direct result of Trump's announcement of U.S. recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
Today, we finally acknowledge the obvious, that Jerusalem is Israel's capital.
It is also here in Bethlehem where a small group of Arab Christians believe they have found the solution to a lasting peace. And Christmas is the perfect opportunity to share it. Using a contemporary multimedia presentation, Arab-Israeli Tony Simon and his Yes for Children team will deliver this message to 15,000 Palestinian children in schools and community centers in Bethlehem and throughout the West Bank.
We're sharing the Christmas story, which means what God did for the human. We're teaching about forgiveness step by step. We teach about love, and that love is stronger. And love is the solution, not violence. Because, violence will bring violence.
Having won favor with the Ministry of Education, the Yes for Children team has been welcomed into 159 schools in the Palestinian Authority.
Our message is as Jesus' message. And we try to give the children the real value. They are worth to have fun. They are worth to be happy. They are worth to hear about God, love.
It was my best show that I had seen in my life. The special message was to be thankful and never be mad in Christmas, and not only in Christmas, in every time.
We just try to show them love. And God continue the work then. And we met many. They came and they told us they got strange dreams. And they asked us about these dreams. And they, in these dreams, they saw Jesus. They saw Jesus. They saw many things Jesus did. They saw Jesus when he crucified, and he used many ways to bring the love for people.
And so it would appear that once again the ancient town of Bethlehem is a cradle of hope and peace on earth here in the Middle East.
For context, this is Marnie Blom, Manger Square, Bethlehem.
Thank you, Marnie. So, from the streets of Bethlehem to our own streets, and a look at how some Canadians plan to celebrate this Christmas. Context Christina Evanoff with that.
Hi, I'm Christina here with Context in the heart of downtown Toronto at Yonge and Dundas Square. In this very festive season, we are asking Canadians what Christmas means to them.
Christmas is about giving back to people and spending time with friends and family.
I'm Portuguese, so like my family kind of goes like really hard for Christmas. So it's like Christmas Eve, it's like from 6 o'clock till like 11:30 we're at one grandma's. After that we have to go to the others. Don't get home until like 3. It's super busy, and then like we have people over the next day.
For me, it means like gathering my family together and have a nice meal with all of them and we pray.
I'm not from around here, so like going home and being able to see my family and spending time with them is super important to me.
Around Christmas we have like this, it's like the crown of Jesus, I guess, and it passes through every house like around Brampton, and it stays for a week in every house, and it's just around Christmas.
I'm raised Catholic and all my family is Catholic, so we do like celebrate the birth of Jesus.
Okay, so for me, I'm an international student, so I moved here last year. So what Christmas means to me is that I also get to go back home and celebrate it with family. So it's all about being around family and friends.
Running through the 6th, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everyone.
Feliz Navidad a todos.
Coming up, Juno-nominated artist Mark Masri will perform his Yuletide single and talk about the power of the Christmas story.
Have you ever been in a conversation like
Tips
that,
to overcoming
where
some
you were
of
talking
life's
about
biggest
something that you were
questions
excited
this
about?
Christmas season. We've got some helpful insight that's coming up.
Coming soon on Context. Marijuana will be legalized on July 1st. What are the implications for parents, police, schools, and health? And is the impending legislation moving too fast? We'll take a look at all sides of this issue.
Well, we've got a treat for you on this Context Christmas special. He's a Canadian singer-songwriter, producer, and Juno nominee. I think you're gonna like this. Here, singing A Christmas Time with You, please welcome Mark Masri.
Never thought the winter'd come so quickly. Never thought you'd fade away so fast. People walking hand in hand through the winter wonderland makes me think of holidays for two. I'm wishing you were with me through this cold December, wondering if you're thinking about our times together, hoping that of all my dreams this one might come true. So I'm wishing for a Christmas time with you. Postman's outside dropping off his letters, Christmas cards from everyone but you. Maybe it'll take a while to send your message across the miles, but the 24th is gonna be here soon. Your head on my pillow, and my world seems right. Snowflakes through the window bring me to light. So I'm wishing you were with me through this cold December. Wondering if you're thinking about our times together. Reminiscing yesterday's just isn't gonna do. So I'm wishing for Christmas time. No other wish could I call mine. And so I'm wishing for Christmas time with you.
Well, Mark Masri, I'm so happy you're here. Let's just get right into it. Christmas traditions. It's Christmas time. What are some favorite annual things you love to do around this time of year?
Oh my goodness. I love the music of the season. Of course, I'm a musician, right? I love the music. I'm just one of those, I also like just kind of going to the mall, drinking a latte and kind of watching people frantically scurrying about trying to find that perfect gift. Yeah. Maybe that's a little bit of a crazy side to me, but I love the energy. There's an interesting energy in the air, even amidst the materialism and the commercialism that you kind of experience in the malls. There is this expectancy, I think, within the society that, although they may not know necessarily what it is they're expectant of or for, it's a beautiful thing, and I love to kind of experience that. I think when you're kind of scurrying about and trying to get everything done and get the house decorated, buy the gifts, prepare the food and all of that kind of thing. I think it's kind of a cool thing to see happen in society, even if you don't necessarily observe Christmas, where the birth of Christ is concerned. So,
what does the Christmas story and this time of year beyond, as you were saying, the gifts, the scurrying around the malls, what does this time of year hold in terms of special significance, the birth of Christ, that Christ story? What does that mean to you?
It's love. It's the greatest gift ever given, and I love what I love about this season, especially from the perspective of an artist, is it's that one time of year where I feel like I've got a little bit of license to go out into sort of the mainstream arena and unpackage the gift of Christmas love, which came in the form of a baby, which came, in the form of baby Jesus, and the humility in which he came. There was no pomp and circumstance where his arrival was concerned. It was very average, probably below average, if we were to look at today's standards. Of course, below average. And yet he came in humility and love, and it was extraordinarily special, yet very, very, very basic, very sort of humble in his arrival. And there's something to be learned there, that Jesus can be found in sort of the simple things. We don't need all the pomp and the circumstance that perhaps we might expect that we'd need in celebrating the birth of the King.
I'm curious, when I read the headlines that we have, hurricanes wiping out communities, very politically divisive times. I mean, the list goes on when we just watch news at 6 or whatever time people tune in. How does the Christmas story, the birth of Christ, hold special relevance nowadays in today's modern landscape against all that's happening around us?
I mean, not to coin sort of a cliche phrase, but what the world really needs is love. We really do need this connection with a real, lasting, impactful love. And God is love, and he expressed his love to us through Jesus and putting flesh on, if you will, and coming down and sort of being acquainted with our existence and knowing what it was to feel our pain and to walk this walk called the human, this human existence. And so I think it does connect. I think it is still very much relevant today. And, unfortunately, we live in very difficult times. And like you said, natural disasters and political sort of extremes one way or another. And and hatred being sort of demonstrated in so many different ways, one towards another. I think if we can just take a deep breath and take a step back and just look at the simplicity of love came down and dwelt among us. Love came down. Jesus came down to display the love of his Father towards us and to be that manifest in the flesh, and just get a hold of that and just sort of put differences aside and embrace the beauty in that love that is extended so freely and offered to everyone. But we can often get clouded and blinded by stuff, and that's what makes it a little bit of a challenge.
No, they're saying I got to wrap up. I have to slide this one. I can hear the control room probably going berserk right now. We're talking about miracles at Christmas. Can you tell us very briefly a personal story with us in your life, a friend that really kind of brings that theme to life, where you could say, wow, God was truly at work in this story?
I don't know if I can necessarily pinpoint one specific incident. I can tell you there's one Christmas that we had when I was growing up. Now, this was sort of towards the end of my time living at home with my parents, just before I got married. But my parents had invited a family that my dad had just met somewhere in the store in that week leading up to Christmas, and invited them to Christmas Eve dinner at our home before we went to church for the Christmas Eve service. And I can remember having such a sense of, this is truly the meaning of this season. Inviting strangers into your home. They were a new immigrant family to the country. They were from somewhere in Eastern Europe, and they had one small child with them. And I'm sure they were like absolutely flabbergasted by a stranger, a complete stranger, inviting them I think my dad had run into them in the mall when he was out buying a last-minute gift for my mother or something like that. And to invite them to our home that evening for dinner, I'm sure that spoke volumes to them. But for me, I think it spoke even an even greater truth to me, and that was, this is the point of the season. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's how we relate and extend ourselves and give of ourselves selflessly to others, and express the love that was so freely expressed and given to us through the Christ child. And I'll never forget that. And I yearly try to bring that sort of to the forefront of our family now, with me being married and having a son, and bringing that to the forefront of our Christmas experience.
Wow, thank you. That's an awesome story to share. I need to say a quick nod to your Juno nomination.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All the best. Thanks for being with us, man.
Appreciate
you. More after this.
Looking forward to a little family drama this Christmas and need some tips to overcome some of the doubt about it all? Well, stay with us. We've got helpful advice that's coming up in my snapshot.
Coming soon on Context, we're following a Supreme Court of Canada battle over religious freedom. Why Trinity Western University's proposed law school matters to all of us. We dive into religious freedom rights on both sides of the issue.
Well, it's something most of us can't even imagine. Homeless, close to suicide, and then one day everything changes. You now have a roof over your head, a record deal, and spend your days helping homeless youth get off the streets. That's the story of our next guest, Matt Black. Welcome to Context, my friend.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, let's just jump right into this. Today, you're a recording artist, founder of a nonprofit organization, and so much more. But your story didn't really start this way. You were alone, hungry, homeless. How did you end up living on the streets? Give us a picture of all that.
Yeah, I was kicked out when I was 15. Basically, was just an adolescent who was surrounded by some negative influences, which I'm sure a lot of us can relate to. And my mom wasn't having it, so she threw me out when I was 15.
And you say, threw you out like it's just like, hey, I picked up something at the grocery store. What does it mean to be thrown out and looking in a surrounding that, hey, there's no roof, nowhere to sleep? What is that like?
Well, I've never been back to this day, so that's an example. I haven't been to my home since then. But when you first have the realization that you have to fend for yourself, it can definitely put a toll on you.
Wow. And I know part of that toll, if I understand your story correctly, you lost some friends of yours to life on the streets. What was that like, and how close were you to them?
Yeah, well, when I was on the streets, I lost about 14 people. A lot of them were just some of the most brilliantly bright, clever, and loving people that I've known to this day. But there wasn't a lot of opportunities and resources available for them. Hence why I wanted to create the organization.
And we're going to jump into that organization, but something interesting happened. As you say, you lose friends on the streets, nowhere to lay your head, and then you get to a point where you want to end your life, going to commit suicide after one last gig, and then something extraordinary happened. What happened?
Yeah, when I got to the point of wanting to commit suicide, it had a lot to do with the fact that a girl that I met in the shelter I had fallen in love with and actually found her OD'd in her bed. So after that happened, I then had planned to end my life at this show. I play guitar and I sing, and I planned it to be my last show. And as I stepped off the stage, there was an A&R rep there who gave me a record deal and an apartment and a recording studio that I could use 24/7 that night.
My goodness gracious, what a turnaround. I'm wondering, when you reflect on your life that night and how things has changed, does something inside of you say, wow, there must be a higher power? Some people call it the man upstairs. Let's call it God. Do you ever say, wow, God must have been watching over my life in that moment?
It was definitely divine intervention.
And what does that mean for you? How so?
It means that I was unaware at the time of my purpose and journey and path that I was created for.
Wow.
Until that moment.
Thank you so much for what you do. We're going to make sure to throw some info of Heroes in Black on the site. And I think you're encouraging others to not just give back around this time of the year, Christmas, but all year round. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
What a wonderful story for Christmas or any time. Thank you, Sheldon Neal. Well, next, not everyone finds it easy to accept that Jesus is God's gift for the world. It's the heart of the Christmas story, and author John Morrison in Vancouver had some doubts about the Christmas story. Hello, John. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much, Lauren. It's great to be here. Share my story a little bit.
Okay, let's talk about that story, because I gather you must have been taught the Christmas story of the baby Jesus for a long time, and you began to doubt it. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the story of being raised in the church, and I mean, I was a shepherd in the Christmas play. Whenever you're the shepherd in the play, you're never that much of a significant role, but I was just happy to be a part of it. And then grew up, you know, kind of made a profession of faith as a teenager, was known as the Christian kid in high school. And it wasn't actually until after I went to my seminary training, having felt like I was called to be a pastor, that with the rise of the internet and the exchange of ideas that were so broadly shared, there was this one documentary that I watched which questioned the Christmas story, saying that Jesus actually never existed, and some of the points seemed compelling, and they just totally blindsided me.
So, John, what turned things around for you? What did you learn about the facts of the Christmas story that changed your mind?
One of the characters in the story that I love so much is not even really in the story itself, but it's the writer of the story. The Gospel of Luke is written by a guy who's a physician, and he writes like a research paper. He says right off the bat, you know, I've taken into account all the different stories that people are sharing about this Jesus character, and now I'm going to write it all. And so we actually get one of the most extensive tellings of the Christmas story from Luke, and he puts the story in context. He puts it with certain rulers at the time in places that we know existed, and with characters that, well, we have no reason to doubt them unless we're actually actively trying to disprove the story.
But you think everybody should do a little bit of a doubt workshops. What is a doubt workshop?
Well, I mean, basically one of my things that I have come to terms with is the fact that, you know, when we go through our doubts, it's not like we're doubting everything about the Bible. There's just a few things that we're wondering about, you know, with Christianity. 6 questions that I found people are asking, like, does God exist? What's the evidence for God's existence? How does Christianity and science work together? How could God be good in light of all the suffering and evil? Why should we trust the Bible? What about all the world religions? How could Christianity say that they're the only ones that are right if there's so many millions, billions of people even who have believed different things? And then lastly, what do you do about gender and sexuality? I think that's an important topic that we have to address today. And those are kind of the encompassing of my doubts. I didn't really doubt how many animals were on the ark, or, you know, what year was Quirinius the ruler during Jesus' time, right? It's really just, to me, those 6 questions that I had to wrestle myself and have come out of it realizing that this is true.
And how did you conclude that you still wanted to be a follower of the Jesus of Christmas?
Well, I realized that it's true. I mean, it makes sense of the world. I see that the things that I was taught as a kid really do make sense as an adult today, and help me as a father, as a husband, as a pastor. You know, and it makes sense to me. And I love the idea of the hope of Christmas, that God so loved us that he sent his son to save us. I need saving. And that's the good news, that this world has hope because of Jesus. And if Jesus didn't come, then it's all just a bunch of lights and Santa Claus and stuff. But if Jesus really is Emmanuel, God with us, I mean, that speaks to our pain. That speaks to our despair, the trouble that we see in the world. Is it ever going to end? Yeah, and Christmas says, yes, it does. Jesus came the first time to save, but the second time he comes as the Prince of Peace, who brings peace to all mankind and for all of history. It's going to be a great moment, and I'm excited about his second coming, because his first coming was so significant to me in that he came to save me, and I believe that it's true, that it really did happen.
John Morrison, thank you very much.
It's my pleasure, Lorna. I'm excited to wish your viewers a Merry Christmas, and Merry Christmas to you as well.
Thank you. That was John Morrison, author and pastor. He joined us from Vancouver. Well, I've doubted a few traditions about Christmas, and I reached for the Encyclopedia of Christmas. Yes, Canada, there is such a book. It's by Canadian professor Jerry Bowler. And what you'll learn is that Christmas is celebrated in every country of the world, and it always has this root: one generation passing on to another the truth that Jesus Christ was a gift given by God for each one of us. We've got a prayer line here for you this Christmas at 1-866-273-4444. If that's a Christmas gift you'd like to discover, or if you just need the gift of prayer this Christmas. 1-866-273-4444. From all of us at Context, thanks for watching, and have a Merry Christmas with the presence of Jesus. I'm Lorna Duick, and you're watching Context.
Voters turning their outrage into online worldwide trends.
Quebec has an interesting relationship with race and religion.
We'll never arrest our way out of this problem.
I guess the politics ahead of the people on the front lines is more concerning.
It's too dangerous for us to go over to Syria right now.
This is real, isn't it? We could be looking at another Rwanda.
God gave us this amazing place, and what we are doing to it is a sin.
Well, this is an issue our next guest is an expert on.
I think it's going to be very difficult for the province to follow these rules.
What is the standard that the church asks?
And he said, God's got you. You are protected.
How does that get decided, what the Pope will address? Joining me now is Wilma Dirksen.
What you're talking about here is the treatment of women in media and entertainment.
Bad behavior, is it out of control?
Join tonight's important discussion.